There was some issue with the internet. Yes, thank you very much, Simagiri Prabhu, for joining like impromptu, last minute notice. So now we are going to start the Gaura Leela. We are very happy to announce today the speaker is His Grace Kadamba Kanana Prabhuji. He will speak on the Gaura Leela. This is our day 3. So welcome, Prabhuji, and the floor is yours. Hare Krishna, then Purnima.
Hare Krishna. So we'll just start with some auspicious invocations. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Shah Ajanulambita Bhujau Kanakavadata Sankirtane Kapitaro Kamalaya Daksho Vishwambaro Dijabaro Yuga Dharma Palo Bande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Anandalila Maya Vigrahaya Hema Badivya Chavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasa Pradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Sankarshano Karanato Yashai Garbo Dashai Chapayo Dashai Seshasya Yasyam Sakala Sanityananda Kirama Sharanam Mamastu. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Prabhupada Nagami Shri Subhag Swamine Sadam Dainya Shri Subhagyaya Sarva Jiva Kripabde Guru Siksha Sadachara Palakaya Namaste. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitanamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtaya Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayati Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. Some humble obeisances. So thank you, Nandavaj Prabhu, for organizing this and allowing all of us to meditate on the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the coming up, as we're coming up to Gaura Purnima. So I'm just yes. So today we'll be I'll be just repeating the words of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, because they are my only guides to Chaitanya Charitamrita. So whatever I've read and from Srila Prabhupada's purports, we'll discuss something. So today, the topic was supposed to be Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's South India tour, which is a very wide topic. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes are so nectarian. Every small leela, every leela has got so much to learn. His activities are so perfect and instructive. So instead of rushing through so many different pastimes, I thought we'll just focus on a few. And then if in the future we might, or if we're inspired, we can go and read and understand the rest of the pastimes. So yesterday, Hemant Krishna Prabhu beautifully described the meeting of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and how he became a great devotee. From an impersonalist, he became a personalist. And then he composed 100 verses in glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And one of these verses describes what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us. This verse, again, is a very famous verse. I'm sure many devotees know. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga sikshartameka purusha purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradari Kripam Buddhiryastamaham Prapati. Says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach us Vairagya Vidya, the real knowledge of renunciation and pure devotional service. Vairagya Vidya is detachment, knowledge of detachment from anything that's material. And Bhakti Yoga is pure devotional service. And why? Because he is an ocean of mercy, and let me surrender onto his lotus feet. Now, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach this, first he started off in Navadvip. But the residents of Navadvip, they were a difficult bunch to convince, because they were all Brahmanical, but not enlightened in devotional service. They were all Smarta Brahmins. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't do too much to convert them. He just did Harinam on the streets. And then he was thinking, where is a favorable situation for me to propagate this, to teach this knowledge of renunciation and Bhakti Yoga? So he decided, let me go to South India, because he knew there was a favorable situation there. So we can see from Srila Prabhupada's example as well. He wanted to start his mission in India. And he tried, but then people were not willing to take it up. So on the orders of his spiritual master, he went to the West and fulfilled the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that idea came from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he said, why, it's difficult to preach in Navadvip. Let me go to South India and preach. And when he was about to leave, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates were so attached to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he knew that they would not allow him to leave. So we could see how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to how he spoke to his very close associates. It was so sweet. He tells them, he doesn't start off with, I'm going to South India, bye. He says, you are all dear to me, more dear to me than my life. I can give up my life, but to give your association up, it's very difficult for me. You have given me the chance, the opportunity to see Jagannath. Now I beg from one bit of charity from you. Please give me permission to leave for a tour of South India. Just so beautiful how he said it. The Lord asked like this, nobody would have the heart to say no. He is the Lord, he's God, he can dictate. He said, I'm going, who can stop him? But the way he speaks, the way he associates with the other devotees, so sweet, and we can learn from how to speak so nicely. You get your work done, but you say it in such a beautiful way. And he means it. He's not just saying it for the sake of saying. And then as he was going to South India, he had to tell them, he couldn't tell them the real reason. So he said, I'm going to search for my elder brother, Vishwarup. But actually Vishwarup had left his body, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew this. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually wanted to go, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to teach Vairagya Vidya. He is a renunciate, he is a sannyasi. But then the devotees, out of love for him, they wouldn't let him be a sannyasi. Sannyasi should eat very little. But in Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was always invited for feasts. People would cook for him so many varieties of dishes. He would lie on the floor and take bath in cold water. That's what a sannyasi should do. But Mukunda would be so unhappy seeing this. So more than social etiquette of, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi, so we should treat him like that. But the devotees around him they placed more importance on love for him. So he is the Supreme Lord. How can he be sleeping on the floor, taking bath, cold bath? Why should he renounce all these things? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu decided, no, let me go on my South India tour and I can just perform these austerities. So he said, none of you come, I will go by myself. And the devotees are very upset. They said, no, okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they suggested to Mahaprabhu, why don't you take one brahmachari, his name was Krishna Das. Said, you'll be walking and chanting, in one hand your danda, the other hand your bead bag. Who will carry your garments and your water pot? So take this brahmachari with you, this Krishna Das, and he will carry your water pot, carry your clothes. He won't open his mouth. He won't speak a word. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, I accept this. Then he went to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to tell him that I'll be leaving to South India. And when he told Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he was heartbroken. He said, if a thunderbolt falls on my head, that's fine. If my son dies, I can tolerate that. But I cannot tolerate the unhappiness that I'll get from separation from you. Separation from a devotee, separation from the Lord, that's how much he feels, more than losing his own life, losing his near and dear one, his son. So that's the amount of attachment Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya had, with that short amount of association he had with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to have darshan in Jagannath temple. And Jagannath gave permission for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go. He gave a prasadi garland. And as he was about to leave, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told him, when you go to South India, please go to Vidyanagar on the bank of Godavari. There'll be a very responsible government officer by the name of Ramananda Rai. Externally, he looks like a Sudra or a Vishayi, a sense gratifier. Because he's from the Sudra community and he's working in a government office. But of all the people I've met, he's the only one who is fit to associate with you. He is most expert in knowledge and transcendental mellows. He's a Rasika Bhakta. When I first met him, I couldn't understand this. I was making fun of him. But now, by your mercy, I can understand the truth. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted this request. He said, yes, I will definitely meet Ramananda Rai when I go to South India. So he left on this tour. And as he left, he would be singing, chanting like a madman. It's described like a mad elephant. He'll be just dancing as he's walking. And he would sing, Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Hey. Krishna, 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 Rakshamam. Krishna, 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 Pahimam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Bahimam. And whoever he met on the way, he would say, chant Hari Hari, and he would embrace them. And then they would go home to their villages and they will start preaching. They will ask, they will engage everyone in their village to chant Hare Krishna. And that's all just by embracing that person. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would invest that spiritual potency in that devotee, in that villager, and he would go back to his village and everyone would start chanting. So it said that unless one is empowered by Krishna or his representative, one won't be able to preach Krishna consciousness. So similarly, we can understand that Srila Prabhupada, he was empowered by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to fulfill the prophecy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why he's able to do the same thing in every town and village. People are chanting Hare Krishna because he was empowered and he's empowering others. So like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered so many people along the way. And the villagers, when they go back to the village, they'll be like madmen. They'll be laughing, crying, dancing. And the villagers will be like, what happened to you? Who did you meet? Why are you like this? And then they would talk about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and induce all of them to chant Hare Krishna. So like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling around the east coast, down from Orissa. He came to Kurma Kshetra, and there's a famous deity of Kurmadev there. Now in this temple, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like in Jagannath Puri, when he first went to the temple, he was displaying symptoms of ecstasy and he was rolling on the floor. And all the villagers came to see this beautiful scene. And just seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, everyone was induced to start to chant Hare Krishna. And nearby in one village, there was a Brahmana named Kurma Brahmana. So Kurma Brahmana in Kurma Kshetra. He invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu home. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he was traveling, every night he would just spend in one Brahmana's home. And so this Brahmana invited him home and served him very nicely with a variety of food preparations. And the Brahmana glorified Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He said, the lotus feet that are meditated upon by Lord Brahma, that same lotus feet have come into my house. There's no limit to my good fortune. My birth, family, everything has been glorified today. And he said, but I have one request. Please let me go with you. I cannot tolerate the misery of this materialistic life. And this is true for all of us. This materialistic life is burning our hearts. We take so much trouble to maintain this body, maintain our family members. We work so hard. But, we can say, yes, our lives are miserable. Yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, please take me. But this Brahmana, from what is described, he actually had a very wonderful family, a wonderful house, he had enough opulences. But he was saying, please, I had enough. I'm fed up of this materialistic life. Please take me along with you. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave him a very important instruction that applies to all of us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't speak like that. He said, better you remain at home and chant the holy name of Krishna. In Kali Yuga, it's not ideal for people to just take sannyas. We're not trained properly. So he said, better you stay at home and chant Hare Krishna under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. And then he tells him that famous verse, Yare dekho tare kohe Krishna upadesh, Amar agya guru hono tera edesh, tara edesh. So Yare dekho tare kohe Krishna upadesh. Whoever you see, instruct them on Krishna's orders. Tell them to chant Hare Krishna. Give them the instructions of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this way, become a spiritual master and try to liberate everyone. And Srila Prabhupada says this is the sublime mission of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When people join the movement, they ask, do I have to give up everything and become a monk to join your society? But that is not our mission, Srila Prabhupada says. He says, remain comfortably in your residence, but just chant Hare Krishna, read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and request everyone you meet to do the same. That is the simple instruction. That's the simple mission. We become Krishna conscious ourselves and make others Krishna conscious. And the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. And if you follow these principles, you will never lose my company. So this is the opportunity for everyone. If we accept this instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we will always be in the company of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there, if Lord is there, that place becomes the Dham. That becomes Vrindavan, Navadvip. So every Grihastha's house is the Dham, because we are following the instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is personally there. We will never lose his company. So having given this instruction, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Kurukshetra. So that was one very important instruction that I thought we could all meditate upon. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Kurukshetra, there was another Brahmana by the name of Vasudev, who was a great personality. And he was suffering from leprosy. But he was a very enlightened soul and most compassionate. His compassion you cannot imagine. Whenever a worm fell from his wound, so he had wounds all over his body due to leprosy. And there'll be maggots inside, and sometimes the maggot will drop out of the wound. And he's so merciful and compassionate. What he'll do is he'll take that maggot and put it back into the wound, that same wound. He's so compassionate to all living entities. And one day he heard that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had arrived and had gone to the Kurma Brahmana's house. So he ran to the Kurma Brahmana's house, hoping to have the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had just left his house, and he was heartbroken and he was crying. And Krishna, he's in everyone's heart. So he knew this Vasudev, the leper, was crying in separation. And immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had just left, came back to the house of the Kurma Brahmana. And then he embraced Vasudev. And Vasudev was just crying. He said, "You are the most merciful personality. Even my own family will not embrace me. They will not even come in front of me, seeing me. But you did not look at all these wounds. You actually came and embraced me. Who can be more merciful than you?" And something astonishing happened when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hugged this leper. All his wounds got healed up. And he came back to his normal self, and he was looking so effulgent. And if something like this happened to us, we'd be so happy. But what did the Brahmana think? He said, "Oh no, now that I've regained my original form, I'll become proud. I'll become proud because I'm looking good again. And I'll become proud because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself has cured me." So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches him how to overcome this pride. He says, preach about Krishna and liberate all the living entities. And as a result, Krishna will accept him as a devotee. And Srila Prabhupada again says in the purport that this is the purpose of ISKCON. We all know ourselves. I don't know about you, but I know what kind of condition I came from. And if we read from Prabhupada Lilamrita, we can see the initial members of the society, what kind of situation they were in. So Srila Prabhupada says each and every member was rescued from a very abominable condition. And now we're engaged in preaching Krishna consciousness. He has cured us of the leprosy, that's wounds of materialistic life. And you can see just the same way the Brahmana became so effulgent. If you look at devotees who are practicing very nicely, their faces are bright. You can see face is the index of the mind. Brahmabhuta Prasannatma, you can see their faces just shining. So how to be accepted as a devotee of Krishna? We preach about Krishna to all other living entities. Then we can attain the lotus feet of Krishna without delay. Srila Prabhupada said. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. So we learned something from Kurma Brahmana and Vasudeva the leper. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued on his South India tour. he went to Simhachalam and visited the Nrsingadev temple there, and he displayed the Ashti Sattvika Bhav. And then after that, stayed the night and started towards Godavari. And then the minute he saw Godavari and he saw the forests along the banks of Godavari, he got reminded of Vrindavan and he got reminded of Jamuna. And he started chanting and dancing, and he took bath in the Godavari. Then he started chanting. As he was chanting, he saw a great personality coming in a palanquin, accompanied by hundreds of brahmanas and musical instruments. It's like a procession. And then he saw this personality get up and take bath. And once Ramananda Rai, this personality was none other than Ramananda Rai. So he came out after taking bath and he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked like as brilliant as hundreds of suns, wearing a saffron garment with eyes like lotuses. And he immediately fell flat on the ground. He did the Dandavat Pranam. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, "Are you Ramananda Rai?" And Ramananda Rai replied, he was a very high-ranking member of the government, but he humbly said, "I am your lowly servant and I belong to the Sudra community." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Ramananda Rai and they both fell to the ground rolling. Now we can, if we understand from our material vision and how much, however much you miss a person, you see that person, you embrace that person after meeting, not meeting for 10 years, 20 years, you feel some amount of bliss. But this kind of bliss we can't imagine, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is actually Radha and Krishna. Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. He's not different from Radha and Krishna. And Ramananda Rai is, we understand that he is actually an expansion of Vishaka Gopi. So this is a union between Krishna and Vishaka Gopi, or Radharani, Srimati Radharani and Vishaka Gopi. And they haven't met. Ramananda Rai was in South India, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Navadvip. So they've been so far apart for so long. And when they met, that was the union of Vishaka Gopi and Krishna and Radha. And so you can imagine the amount of ecstasy in that meeting. And they were both manifesting ecstatic symptoms. And all these brahmanas who had brought Ramananda Rai there, they were wondering, who is this personality that is hugging a Sudra like Ramananda Rai? And what is happening to Ramananda Rai? He's experiencing so many symptoms hugging this sannyasi. Immediately, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could see this. He stopped exhibiting these emotions. And Ramananda Rai said, "Looking from your behavior and bodily features, I can tell that you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead." And they started glorifying each other. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You're the topmost devotee. Simply by your sight, everyone's heart is melted." And he told Ramananda Rai, "I want to hear from you about Lord Krishna." He said, "Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told me that only you know about Lord Krishna's pastime, and I want to hear about Lord Krishna's pastimes from you." So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Let's go back, and in the evening we'll come and we'll meet and discuss these topics." So they went back, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in the evening to meet Ramananda Rai. So this time around, Ramananda Rai didn't come with his 100 servants. He just came with one servant. And they went to a secluded spot and they started talking. So this is the Gaudiya Vaishnava system. Discussions about Radha and Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, they are very, very confidential topics, not to be discussed in public. And we see this from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leelas. and all previous acharyas, and even Srila Prabhupada. These topics are very confidential, meant to be discussed only amongst devotees in private. It's very intimate pastime. So that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told them, you come alone and just with one servant. If not, we will tend to take things cheaply. So there's a pastime of Srila Prabhupada in Janmashtami in Vrindavan. In his lecture, what is he saying? He's saying, you are not this body. First understand that. Srila Prabhupada doesn't know the intimate pastimes. Of course, he knows, but he's not speaking that in public. So we should understand as well. We can get carried away sometimes, but we should try to remember what is the Gaudiya Vaishnava system. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would discuss confidential pastimes with intimate associates like Ramananda Rai, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami. And then with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Prakashananda Saraswati, and that caliber of devotees, he would discuss Bhagavad Gita. And for general public, Sankirtan. You'd go out and do Sankirtan. And that's the most effective way to awaken Krishna consciousness in the general public. Right? So for different groups of devotees, there are different ways of preaching. So now that they are in this secluded spot, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals his heart and he says, Ramananda Rai, please explain to me what is the ultimate goal of life? What is sadhya? What is the aim of life? So we're used to the Lord being the instructor. We're in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is asking the questions, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is replying. There's Rupa Siksha, Sanatan Siksha, where Lord's giving the instructions. But here we see the Lord is taking instructions from a devotee. Because Ramananda Rai, he's also the expansion of Arjuna. So in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was asking questions and Krishna was answering it. But it's here, Arjuna in the form of Ramananda Rai is answering questions and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking the questions. So in the 8th chapter of Madhya Leela, Kaviraj Goswami explains beautifully. He says that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is an ocean of devotional mellows. He knows all the truths. And from that ocean, the water evaporates and forms a cloud. And as the water condenses and the cloud becomes really heavy, that is Srila Ramananda Rai. And he is raining that water back into the ocean. So all these instructions, they're coming from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but then through Ramananda Rai. So then Srila Ramananda Rai starts explaining what is the ultimate goal of life. And this is very, very important for us. These are most important instructions. Because if we don't know what the goal of life is, then we'd have wasted this. This life is very rarely obtained. Durlabham manusha janmam tadapi adhruvam artadam. So this is a very rarely achieved human life, but it's very meaningful because we can try to find out about these things. What is the purpose of life? What is the goal of life? So here, Ramananda Rai is explaining. So this starts off and then it proceeds on to the most highest topics of bhakti. So we'll continue, and at some point I would probably have to accept that I don't understand anything as it is, but as it gets further, I'm completely bewildered. And when we get to that point, due to my limitations, we might have to stop. So first, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, what is Dharma? What is the highest Dharma? And Ramananda Rai says, Varnashram Dharma. That's the highest. So just by following the social and spiritual orders, one can make one's life perfect. And Varnashram Dharma is established by the Supreme Lord himself. So he quotes this verse from Vishnu Puran. Varnashramachara vata purushena para puman vishnuraradyate panta nanya tattosha karanam. So he says, the best way to satisfy Vishnu is to follow the Varnashram system. But this is not the ultimate goal. Mahaprabhu's question, what is the ultimate goal? But this is not the ultimate goal. Varnashram dharma is for materialistic people, right? It says that, Varnashram dharma is the beginning of human life. If one does not follow Varnashram dharma, that is animal life, and you can't talk about spiritual topics. So this is the base, but this is not the ultimate goal. Right? This is material Varnashram dharma, but it's required for gradual purification and advancement. But it's a material arrangement. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Eho bhaya, age kaho. He says, this is external, tell me more. So first Varnashram dharma, Mahaprabhu said, is external. Tell me something more. So then Ramananda Rai speaks about karmarpanam. He says the essence of perfection is to offer the results of one activities to Krishna. So not just doing Varnashram dharma. It's a bit better than Varnashram dharma. We're performing our occupational duties, but we're taking the fruit and offering it to Krishna. So we're giving up the fruit of our activities to Krishna. And Ramananda Rai says, this is sadhya. And he quotes Bhagavad Gita, Yat karosi yadas nasi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurushva madat pranam. Just whatever you eat, whatever you do, whatever you offer in sacrifice, whatever you give in charity, whatever austerities, offer all the results unto me. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sounds like a good proposition, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, this is external. Tell me something more. Why? Because you're renouncing the fruit of the activity, but the activity themselves, they're material activities. So we're doing material activities and then taking it and giving that fruit to Krishna. He says that's external. So he says, tell me some more, tell me something more. Then Ramananda Rai goes on to explain. He says, Swadharma tyag esadhyasa. So the perfection is swadharma tyag, giving up all occupational duties. So previously, Ramananda Rai Prabhu said, we give up the fruit. So do the activity and give up the fruit. Here, Ramananda Rai says, give up the activity itself. So take sannyas, stop doing all activity. And he quotes the famous verse in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayisyami ma suchaha. So surrender, give up all sorts of religious and occupational duties. Surrender unto me and I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not worry. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this is external. Why is this external? Because this is not, you're giving up all activity. You want to surrender, but what do you do after taking shelter? What do you do after surrendering? That's not mentioned. So he said, you're not engaged in any spiritual activity. You're just surrendering. You're just trying to give up the activity, but you don't have a better engagement. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada says, this is not dharma because you're surrendering, thinking that I'll be freed from sinful reaction. So you stop doing action because you don't want karma, but that's still external. So Ramananda Rai goes on to talk about Jnana Mishra Bhakti Sadhya Sadhana. So the essence of perfection is Jnana Mishra Bhakti. That bhakti that's mixed with speculative knowledge. And he quotes the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Na Sochati Na Kangshati Samasarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhakti Labate Param. So according to Bhagavad Gita, one who's transcendently situated, who knows that I'm not this body, he becomes joyful. So here, a little bit of bhakti starts, but it's mixed with speculative knowledge. He realizes the Supreme Brahman, he realizes the Atma. And they also, because of speculative knowledge, you keep thinking, there's not this, not this, not this, not this. So a lot of negatives. But as if not this, then what? The positive is not there. So this is also external. It's not the real point or the ultimate goal. And it gives you sort of an impersonal realization of the Lord. So up to here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has not rejected, he has said everything is external. So he says, tell me more. And then Ramananda Rai starts speaking about Jnana Sunya Bhakti Sadhyasar. So bhakti that is devoid of speculative knowledge, devoid of mental speculation. That is the ultimate goal. And he quotes the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavadiya varta stane stita shruti gatam tanuvan manubhir ya prayaso jita jito pyasita istrilokyam. So he says this is the beginning of bhakti. This is sadhya. This is the perfection. What is the perfection? Giving up the impersonal conception of the absolute truth. Giving up all the speculative knowledge. Then what you do, you go and associate with the devotees from the sadhus. You hear from them, engage in Shravanam, Kirtanam of Krishna's name, Krishna's form, beauty, pastimes. And you don't have to give up anything. Remain in whatever situation, in a stane stita shruti-gatam tanvanmar, but engage your senses, your body, mind, words in Krishna's service. In that way, Krishna, who's Ajita, who's inconquerable, becomes Jita, he becomes conquered. So here, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't say, Eho Baya, he says, Eho Hoy, this is good. All that while the first four, he said, that's external. But now he's saying, oh, this is good. Tell me more. So this is the point where real bhakti starts. Associating with devotees, Shravanam, Kirtanam. And this is the beginning of devotional service. Why? Because until this point, it's not about bhakti. All that was external. Now we're coming to bhakti. And this process of hearing and chanting, in many different places we see in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's described, Satam prasangam mama virya samvido bhavanti hit karna rasayana katha tajoshanad asapavargavat mani shraddha ratir bhaktir anukramish. So just by associating with the devotees, which is described here, and from them hearing Krishna Katha, what will happen? Our heart becomes cleansed. And then we will go through from Shraddha, a little bit of faith, all the way up to Prema. So that's the beginning. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunai Shravanadi Sutta Chitte Korohe Udai. So this Krishna Prema is in everyone's heart. And all those other processes isn't going to reveal that. Only this process of Shravanam, that starts cleansing the heart, and then real Krishna Prema can start appearing in our heart. It's not something that you have to find outside. It's within our heart. But none of those other processes are going to reveal that. So this is the beginning of pure devotional service. And it's also described as the stage of sadhana bhakti. And then from there, he starts explaining, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, now tell me more. So now he starts describing ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's ordinary bhakti, that's the sadhana bhakti, and then now it goes on. It becomes ecstatic bhakti, ecstatic devotional service. It becomes more advanced as your sadhana bhakti gets more advanced. Then you come to spontaneous devotional service. And then he quotes this verse, Krishna bhakti rasabhavitamati kriyatam yadiko topi labhyate tatra laulyam apimulyam ekalam janma koti sukrite na labhyate. So it's pure devotional and service in Krishna consciousness cannot be gotten by doing all sorts of pious activities, material pious activities for hundreds and thousands of lives. It can only be gotten by paying one price, that is intense greed, laulyam. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay. So he describes spontaneous devotional service as rivers flowing into the ocean. And you cannot stop a river that's flowing into the ocean. It's going, it knows its path, it knows its purpose. It's going to go until it reaches the ocean. And it flows without impediments until it reaches the lotus feet of Krishna. So that is spontaneous devotional service. And then he starts, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, yes, that's good, tell me more. So now Ramananda Rai starts talking about the different forms of rasas. This is Prema Bhakti that's starting. So he starts talking about different rasas, starting with Dasya Prem, Dasya Ras. So he says, okay, the ultimate goal is to consider the Lord as the master and I am the servant. The Lord is in the superior position, I'm in the lower position, and my duty is to serve him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, yes, tell me more. Then he says, okay, no, the goal is actually Sakyaras, parental love. In Sakyaras, in friendship, in Sakyaras, you consider the Lord as a friend. You consider the Lord as at the same level. And you're playing with Krishna, the Gopas, if you see how they're having picnics with Krishna, sometimes Krishna has to carry them when they lose a game. And Krishna has to carry them on their shoulders. Sometimes Krishna is massaging the feet of one of the Gopas. So like this, they're on the same level, equal to him. So there's more relish there. So he says, that's the goal. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, yes, that's good. Tell me more. So then Ramananda Rai describes Vatsalya Prem, parental love, parental affection. And he talks about how in Vatsalya Bhav, the devotee thinks himself in a higher position than Krishna. He thinks, I am the parent of Krishna. I have to look after Krishna. If I don't feed Krishna, Krishna will go hungry. If I don't teach him a lesson, he's going to go out and he's going to become a thief when he grows up. So Krishna is the ultimate protector for everyone, but in Vatsalya Bhav, the devotee feels that I need to look after Krishna. I need to protect Krishna. So Ramananda Rai says, that is sadhya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, tell me more. Then he speaks about Madhurya Ras. And that is complete intimacy. And in each rasa, all the mellows of the other rasas are inbuilt into it. So in Madhurya, the Vatsalya, Sakya, and Dasya Bhav are all built into it. And there's complete intimacy, and that's the conjugal mood. And he talks about the gopis, who are the best devotees. And he speaks about how even the goddess of fortune did not have the fortune to enter the Rasa Leela. So it's described that the gopis, he says, the gopis have surrendered everything to Krishna. So they're the greatest devotees, and Krishna says, "Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stateva bhajami." According to what the love you show me, I will reciprocate equally, not less, but more. But then Krishna, who is the proprietor of everything, he is saying, the love of the gopis, I cannot reciprocate. So he says, "Ye yatamam prapadyante," but then here he's saying, I can't. I've got nothing to give you. I will always remain a debtor to the gopis. So here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this is the limit of perfection. That's the limit of perfection. But then he says, tell me more. And Ramananda Rai he said, I don't know anyone in this material world who could inquire above this. This is the highest perfection. How can anyone ask for more? But he said, since you're asking, I will tell you. Because till this point, Ramananda Rai had described the most special devotees, the gopis. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to hear about someone even more special. He wanted to hear about Srimati Radharani. So then Ramananda Rai describes many different things about the glories of Srimati Radharani, the glories of Krishna, their rasa dance, and the most intimate pastimes. But due to my limitations, I can't describe them, but it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So you're all most welcome to read and enrich your bhakti. But so we'll just, that's a summary of maybe about 100 verses, just this description about Srimati Radharani, the pastimes between Radha and Krishna. And finally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu becomes satisfied. And Ramananda Rai says, I don't know how I can instruct you. He says, I'm just a string instrument and you're playing the instrument like a harp and I'm just making sound. I'm like a parrot just simply repeating whatever you're saying. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was glorifying him and saying, I'm a Mayavadi sannyasi. I don't know about Krishna. I only know Ramananda Rai and he knows Krishna, therefore I'm listening from him. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu speaks that famous verse, Kiba Vipro Kiba Nyasi Sudra Kene Noy Jai Krishna Tattvaveta Se Guru Hoy. He says, it doesn't matter who is fit to be a guru. It doesn't matter if you're a sannyasi or you're a brahmana or you're a sudra. One who knows Krishna, he can be a guru. And here, even a sudra like Ramananda Rai is fit enough to be the guru of Krishna himself. So that's the real quality of one who can instruct others in Krishna. Who knows Krishna? It doesn't matter whether you're born in a... We've seen many pastimes like Haridas, Srila Haridas Thakur. He was Namacharya and he was born in a very low family. But he is fit to instruct everyone. He is Acharya of the holy name because he knew Krishna Tattva. So he wanted to, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to show that it doesn't matter that even a sannyasi like myself can take instructions from a Sudra. You know, he's born in a Sudra family, he's doing a Sudra job, and outwardly he's like a materialist. He's a Grihastha, and I'm a sannyasi, but I'm taking instructions from him because he knows Krishna Tattva. And then he describes that this highest goal of love for Radha and Krishna can be obtained only by one way, that is by following the footsteps of the gopis. Rupa Goswami says, Anarpita charim chirat karunya vatirna kalau samarpitam unnatvo jalarasam swabhakti shriyam hari puratara sundara duti kadamba sandipita sada hridaya kandare spuratu vasachinandana. He says, the Lord who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi, may he be always situated in the innermost core of your heart. His color is that of molten gold, and he has descended in this age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no other incarnation has ever offered before. The most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. By following the footsteps of the gopis, we can attain the highest goal of Srimati Radha and Krishna. And how do we do that? Through who knows? Who can give this? One who has this, he can give this. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the only one who has this, so he can give this. So we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we have a chance of entering into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So Ramananda Rai requested, he says, from your activities, from your appearance, I can tell that you are the Supreme Lord. Now please reveal your true form. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expanded into Radha and Krishna. Radha, Krishna, Yanyan, on different. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fainted because he is describing the ultimate goal of life, which is Radha and Krishna. And here he is seeing that before his very own eyes. And he lost consciousness. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu woke him up, and he had assumed the form of the sannyasi again. So this is a great treasure for us to read and meditate on. If we, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has, about this part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says these conversations are like a mine. And in this mine, most mines just have one thing, it's a gold mine or diamonds. But this mine, you can extract everything. First, there will be copper, bell metal, silver, gold, and even touchstones. All of that is in one place in this mine. So he considers things that are external, maybe like copper, varnashram dharma, karmarpanam, swadharma tyag, and jnana mishra bhakti. All these are just, all of that are described here, and those are external. And then he goes on to talk about sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. All of that is in this conversation. So this is like a great mine. And in a mine, you need some miners. If not, how will you get you can't just stand outside the mine, then it won't come out the mine. So you need someone to go in and mine for it. You need someone to go in, dig, and take out all these things. And Ramananda Rai and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are compared to the miners. They are working very hard in excavating all these valuables, metals, one after another. First the copper, first varnashram dharma, no, karmarpanam, so dharma tyag. So like that, they're getting deeper and deeper, and they're coming to the touchstones of prema bhakti. And it said that Anantashesh with his 1,000 mouths cannot fully describe these conversations. And these conversations went on for 10 days. So this is, Kaviraj Goswami has just summarized all of it in just maybe about 300 odd verses. And Kaviraj Goswami describes that the activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are like condensed milk. And the activities of Ramananda Rai are like sugar candy. So if you mix these two together, how sweet, how nectarian it will be. And then the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are like camphor. So now you have condensed milk, sugar candy, and camphor. This is the ultimate nectar. It says one who hears this is most fortunate. So we pray that by the causeless mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our spiritual masters, one day we may become eligible to be able to dive into these confidential topics and truly taste the nectar. So I would probably stop here. There's so many more pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in South India, which are all available in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I hope everyone's inspired to read and relish those pastimes. So thank you very much. I apologize for my inability to inspire you because I'm quite fallen. Please bless me. Vancha kalpataru visha kripa sindhuve vacha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. I request any devotees to share their realizations or throw some light in these topics.
Thank you for the wonderful what we really appreciated is the content about association and Lord Chaitanya's humility. Lord Chaitanya says the Buddhist are all in his own life and he wanted to go on his own to the sovereign throne and big charity. So much humility. And then we have this association he says the life Sri Lord Chaitanya is worth more than his own life in life. So this association has come throughout the whole class. So much association. So could you please elaborate how a devotee should take association? What are the main characteristics or how what's the association? Sorry, but we can't hear you.
So we have a few minutes if anyone would like to share any other realizations or comments. If
Explanation of association. We still come to. I was saying that the whole class emphasis has been so much association. Checking the issues, bodies, and several child association about checking is like more important than some life children. The whole tool is just like association. I was wondering how we should get association, whatever the content of this program on association. For this class, there's so many things about association. It's really good to elaborate it.
Right. So shall we move on to the next program, nourishing our prayers?
Hare Krishna, Nandraj Prabhu. Sorry, your question wasn't clear. It's distorted. So that's why maybe Kadamba Kanana Prabhu didn't hear you. We couldn't understand as well. I mean, I couldn't because it was distorted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Comment, was it? Okay.
It's much better. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, we can hear you now.
I think I had my Bluetooth on, that's why I think it's not coming out very clearly. Sorry about that. Now I was just asking Kadamba Kanana Prabhu, this such a wonderful class, and there's a lot of thing about association. And one thing I noticed is Lord Chaitanya appreciate that association of the devotees. He said their association is worth more than his life. And similarly, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also said he could not give up association of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because it's more than his life or life of children. So I was just asking Prabhu if you can elaborate it more, how we should take association from each other. Thank you, Prabhu.
Actually, we see from Ramananda Rai's descriptions, the real bhakti only starts at the stage when we start having association with devotees and in the association of devotees doing Shravanam, Kirtanam. And that's when real bhakti starts. The first four processes were external, but real bhakti only starts at that point. And so association, according to Nectar of Instructions, there are 6 ways of associating with the devotees. But from what I understand, when we need to have that intense greed, that laulyam, to have that association of devotees, where there's some association of devotees that are coming together, discussing Krishna's pastime, we need to have that greed to have their association, because only can.
So it's not like physical association. I mean, it's.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told the Vasudeva the leper that as long as you're following my instruction, I'm always there with you. So we can follow the instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the bona fide spiritual masters. Then we get the same instruction, and then we have association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he himself says that, I will always be with you. I'm always present.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anybody else got any question, comments? Give us a few minutes. I request His Grace. His Grace. Swet to give a more word of thanks. Thank you. Shri Krishna Prabhu, you there? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Did you mean Sweet Krishna Prabhu?
Yes,
He's
Prabhu.
here. Yeah, 1 minute, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Number pranam to all. It was just wonderful to keep the series going through this week. And so nice to hear this conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy, which is the essence or the entire, should we say, the cream of Chaitanya Charitamrita, which His Grace Kadamba Kanana Prabhu so nicely described to us and made us completely immerse in these pastimes of the Lord. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, on behalf of ISKCON Auckland and all the devotees here who are eagerly listening to this nectar. Thank you very much for spreading that, and we hope to continue to hear from you in the near future as well. So thank you once again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Now we have Dashing of prayer. I think
मेरे को क्यों कर देता है फिर? मेरे को क्यों कर दिया फिर?
क्या?
करके यहीं पे ऑफ कर देता ना अपना.
Namaste Narsimhaya Prahlada Hiranyakashipu